Baby, oh baby, oh baby. Dave, Miles, Larry, get to you in a second here. We got Grant Paulsen coming up from 106.7 The Fan in Washington, D.C. It's part of the Grant and Danny Show. He's been doing that for a long, long time. NBCS Washington, of course, covering the Commanders. He does it all. He covers Nats. Grant is the man out there in D.C. He'll give us shed some light on Chase Young. As you say, good morning to everybody out there. Getting off their graveyard shift, overnight dancers. Students going to class right now, preschool, doesn't matter. Good morning, everybody out there. YouTube, Twitch, powered by First NorCal Credit Union, Comcast Business Text Line, as well as this is a Warriors Wednesday. We're going to get into Warriors in a little bit here as they host the Sacramento Kings tonight. Warriors Wednesday brought to you by Freeman's Appliance, a trusted name since 1922. Visit freemansappliance.com today. Don't forget to be tuned in to Warriors Live tonight at 6 p.m. JD is going to be live from Ballast Point Brewing Company down the street from Chase Center. Be sure to stop in and say hello. Let's bring in Grant Paulsen to the Morning Girls here on 95.7 The Game. Grant, good morning to you. Yeah, it's not afternoon yet out there in D.C., just 11 o'clock. Grant, thanks for joining us here, man. And I know you know the Commanders inside and out. I've been following you for a long, long time here. So Chase Young, kind of player the Niners getting here in Chase Young, the former number 2 overall pick of the 2020 NFL Draft?
They're getting a guy that's going to help them a lot the rest of this season, I think. He's played at a very high level. The problem really for him here in Washington was not only injury history, where he missed about a year and 3 quarters over the last 2 seasons prior to this season, but there was so much hype and expectation and anticipation when he was added with the number 2 overall pick in the draft back in 2020. He was the first selection of the Ron Rivera regime. They turned down quarterbacks at a time where they needed one with Tua and Herbert on the board. They thought they were drafting Nick Bosa or Myles Garrett or T.J. Watt, and he just hasn't played anything like that. He's not that caliber of rusher. He hasn't been the game wrecker that they anticipated. So I think he's been a little bit of a victim of hype. Having said that, he is now finally playing at a high level. He's rushing well. He's 8th in pressures according to PFF. His pass rush win rate is really effective and better than it's been the last couple of years. And he looks a little bit more like a first-round edge rusher who can change games and end drives. But he just wasn't really what was anticipated. The staff here thought he freelanced a little too often for their liking, and at times made life harder on some of the other guys around him.
So where did it go wrong with Washington and Chase Young? Like, you've admitted that he can be a very good player for you, even though the hype hasn't met, the expectation and all that, and the production hasn't met that hype. Was it more off the field? Was it on the field? Was it just a difference of opinions? Like, where did it go wrong? Why are you getting rid of a 24-year-old player?
So I think it's a great question. I would say, number one, the hype is way larger than the performance. So you start there. He acts like, in my opinion, and I don't mean as a guy, I think he's a very nice, respectable guy in the locker room, but he kind of operates professionally like he's a defensive player of the year. He doesn't come to off-season workouts. He doesn't rehab at the facility when he's injured. He hires his own people. He goes and trains with Von Miller in the off-season. And then, for 9 games before he tore his ACL in his sophomore season, he had a sack and a half and 3 tackles for loss. So there was just underperformance. Everyone kind of chalks up his second season to, he got hurt. I mean, he got hurt in week 10 and he had a sack and a half at the time and was kind of not noticeable for much of the season. So he was underperforming coming off of a defensive rookie of the year season where he deserved to be the defensive rookie of the year. He was the best rookie defensive player in 2020. But if you look at it, it was a super down year among rookies. He had 7.5 sacks. It's not like it was 14. He made some impact plays and did some good things, but it wasn't, this unbelievable game-changing, like Bosa season 1 kind of year. So I think that's the on-the-field part of it. Off the field, I think, is where there was baggage, certainly, and where I think he kind of graded on the staff a little bit. As I mentioned, he's not going to come to off-season programs. They're voluntary, but it doesn't mean the staff has to like that. When he was hurt, he didn't rehab at the facility. And then his injury, which was very serious, and he worked very hard to get back, but it lingered. They thought he was ready around week 8, week 9 last year. He didn't end up playing until the final 3 weeks of the season. He was getting a bill of health. There were several weeks where I was told by people in the building they thought he was going to play on a Tuesday or Wednesday, only to find out come Sunday he still wasn't ready to clear that mental hurdle and get back on the field. So there was some frustration there, I think. They weren't on the same page. And then the last thing I would say is just, as I mentioned, in a contract year, because they didn't pick up his option, think about what that means, right? He's the number 2 overall pick. There's no precedent for that.
Right.
They didn't pick up his 5th-year option to pay him $17 million next season, I think that was kind of new when you knew the writing was on the wall. And at that point, I think he, Sweat, both of those guys were in contract years. Their goals might not be the exact same as the teams at that point as they're looking for, that big bite at the apple, and who can blame them?
Wow, great answer there. Grant, can he play in any scheme? Because the Niners run a different, their defensive line, they run the Y9, where it's spread out the defensive line. The ends are lined up outside the tackles. So the Y9, will Chase Young be able to play in this scheme? And how is he against the run? A little two-part question for you.
He's very good against the run. I mean, he's just huge. He's so strong and fast. I mean, this is a 99.9th percentile athlete. And I don't mean like on planet Earth. I mean in the NFL. Like, there aren't guys that are as strong and as fast as him. So he will be very good. If he's going to be responsible and set the edge and, take on those responsibilities, like, he can do that. He's going to make impactful plays in the running game. He'll blow plays up. He'll get you some TFLs. When he's going good, and he is right now, he's a handful. The problem really is the consistency of the pass rush. Like, I'll give you an example. He went head-to-head with Jordan Mailata of Philadelphia this past week, and his stat sheet read 1 tackle at the end of the game, right? So, I mean, when he plays against Justin Pugh, who was fresh off the couch, guard playing tackle for the Giants a few weeks ago, this was now literally 2 games ago. He had his first 2-sack game of his career in year 4.
Wow.
And he feasted on Justin Pugh. Like, it was a good game. He dominated him all game long. He should. He played the Bears earlier this season, had a big game. They had a backup tackle. So, like, he's going to own guys like that. When he goes up against the Trent Williamses of the world or somebody like that, it's a little different. But I think you're going to get a guy who the rest of this season I would bank on having 5 or 6 sacks. Like, he's going to get some cleanup sacks, especially on that D-line. How are you not going to feast? He was getting 12% double teams here. Okay. I think he's going to get fewer double teams in San Francisco for obvious reasons. He's not kind of the alpha there, or the number one guy, although I would argue Montez Sweat was their number one guy here, but not based on name value. So teams might have shifted some things his way that they won't anymore. But I think he can play that scheme. He liked to stand up occasionally anyway. He liked to kind of get outside a little wider on his own. So I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't do some of that in San Fran just naturally and like it more.
Grant, you're giving us really good information. I'm really enjoying it here. We had a number 2 overall pick, number 3 technically, Solomon Thomas, and he was an afterthought, and we did not pick up his 5th-year option. So we've been there. We understand it. But as a skeptic, I'm not well-versed in the Washington football team's history of what's been going on. I'm just looking from afar, and I'm like, you guys have been a dumpster fire of an organization, right? And I'm saying, like, this feels like a change of scenery guy, right place, get out of that situation. Not that he's not culpable, not that he wasn't injured. Those things happen. He's going to have to correct course himself, right? But, like, how much of this is on Washington in general from afar?
Well, yeah, I think we're going to find out. I mean, the one argument against them potentially right now is, did they get the most out of him from a coaching standpoint? Like, you have a defensive-minded head coach in Ron Rivera. And here, and really throughout his career, minus one season where Cam Newton was the MVP and Carolina went 15-1 and got to the Super Bowl, Rivera's been very mediocre. It's his 13th year in the league. This is going to be very likely his 10th season where he doesn't finish above 500. Like, how do you keep getting opportunities? And on top of that, he graduated not only to being a head coach here, but to also being the GM and running everything, which is, the front office part has gone way worse than the coaching part, where he's actually, close to average. So we're going to find out. Like, did Jack Del Rio, the defensive coordinator, use him in a way where you watered down the production? Did they ask him to do things on the defensive line that they shouldn't have been? I guess if he goes there and he's a monster, that's possible. But I think generally speaking, it's low-hanging fruit to say, oh, well, Washington's a dumpster fire. They're terrible. Every decision they make is wrong. I mean, look, the value for him is what it is. 31 teams yesterday had a chance to trade for him.
Right.
And someone gave up a sandwich pick between the 3rd and 4th round, and that was the best offer. So I think that speaks for itself, too.
That's how I'm kind of looking at it. I like the deal for the 49ers, Grant, before we let you go. I like the deal. It's a low-risk, high-reward move, but I do have questions on why it didn't work out in Washington and some of the things you said there, because Ron Rivera feels like from afar that he brings credibility, that he brings stability. Like, he is a coach. And Chassie's looking at me crazy. He had a good tenure in Carolina. Like, I don't know if you guys think differently about Ron Rivera. I don't know. I think he brings credibility.
I'm with Grant. I think he's thoroughly mediocre.
I think he's mediocre, but he's not the worst thing in the world for what you guys have had in Washington.
I mean, come on. We watched Shaq Del Rio here.
I think that first of all, he's a very nice man, okay? But that's like, oh, like someone's like, what, is he good looking? And someone's like, oh, he's really nice to my parents,
Right.
Like he's a good guy, truly. And he's got great relationships with media people all over the country and columnists, and glowing things get written. His results are, look at him. I mean, how can you possibly have 10 losing seasons in 13 years and keep getting opportunities? It is the epitome. It's a hamster wheel of mediocrity. It's always 7 to 9 wins. I think the players generally like him. They play hard for him, but especially as an executive, I mean, it has been a disaster. They got 10 plays this past week on offense and defense from their 7-player draft class.
Wow.
They've benched 2 of those guys already. It is a complete mess with him running the front office. So it's
that's a problem. Yeah, that is a problem. The front office guy, just coach, dude. Grant, very good.
So as a coach, I'm going to give him like a C- probably, and the rest is an F. But I will say really quickly, I'm giving you the Washington perspective on why they did this.
For sure.
To me, this was a no-brainer for San Francisco. I think it's a really smart acquisition. I believe he's going to play well for them. And it doesn't seem like they're a team necessarily that would lock him up long-term anyway, which would be my trepidation. Like the Commanders, based on the injury history and some of the off-field stuff, right, they didn't necessarily think this is a guy we want to commit $25 million a year to for the long term. I think the 49ers, at least for now, are viewing him as a bit of a hired gun to help out Paulsen and the crew the rest of the way. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Their wants and his wants are going to align for the next few months.
Yeah, it's funny you brought up the Philadelphia game, and we'll let you go, Grant, but I had to know in my notes today, 4 tackles, 1 sack, 4 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits in 8.5 quarters against Philadelphia this year. And when I say that, it's because the Niners are going to be competing with Philadelphia down the road, Seattle, Baltimore, and that's not good. I need him to step up against the big teams, not, like you said, the Justin Pughs of the world. So let's see what Chase Young does. Let's see what he does here. Low risk, high reward move for the Niners. We appreciate the insight. Really good stuff, Grant.
Thank you, guys. Be well.
Anytime. Grant Paulsen, 106.7 The Fan in Washington, D.C. A lot of insight there.